Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the ancient yet incredibly practical toolkit of Stoicism. Our main goal here, to help you reclaim something absolutely crucial, your emotional freedom. You see, what we're looking at isn't just dusty philosophy for the sake of it. It's a literal blueprint for living that survived for over 2 millennia. Why? Because it actually works. So, we've got to start by shattering a major illusion right out of the gate. Most people don't control their lives. Their emotions do. They're basically living as prisoners, even if they have no idea. We all love to think we're in the driver's seat, right? But honestly, far too often, we let a single careless comment from a coworker or just a tiny minor rejection completely derail our entire day. Just one angry moment can wreck a relationship that took years to build. We literally let our emotions grab the wheel and they just drive us right off a cliff. I want you to really think about this for a second. Imagine someone heavily criticizes your work. Immediately, your heart races. You get super defensive. Your mind is scrambling to find a comeback, and then you end up replaying that exact conversation in your head for hours. But ask yourself this direct question. Did you actually choose to feel that way, or did your mind just react on its own? If we're being completely honest with ourselves, we realize we didn't consciously choose that anger. It was a totally automatic reaction. And crazy enough, this is how most people live. Not consciously, but entirely on autopilot. To break out of this autopilot trap, we can actually look back to the Roman emperor Marcus Aurelius. He warned us about this exact thing centuries ago. As he so brilliantly put it, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Because true freedom, it isn't financial, it isn't political, it is 100% emotional. The problem is, most people completely reverse this principle. They let outside events dictate exactly how their minds feel. And that inversion, right there, is exactly where human suffering begins. Take the extreme story of another great Stoic thinker, Epictetus. Now, this guy had no wealth, no power, and was literally born a slave. According to tradition, one day his master maliciously twisted his leg. Epictetus just calmly warned him that if he kept going, the leg would break. The master totally ignored him, and snap, the leg broke. It's an intense story, I know, but it brilliantly highlights the stark difference between unavoidable physical pain and totally optional emotional suffering. Because instead of screaming with hatred or, erupting into a violent rage like most of us probably would, Epictetus just looked at his master and simply said, "I told you it would." Just pause and think about that for a second. How is a reaction like that even humanly possible? Well, it's because he profoundly understood that while the physical pain was completely unavoidable, suffering over the malice of his master, that was a choice. And this brings us right to the foundational framework that Epictetus taught. It's called the dichotomy of control. It's a remarkably simple yet totally profound teaching that basically separates everything in the universe into 2 distinct buckets: things we can control and things we cannot. And here's the magic of it. When you finally stop fighting the things you absolutely cannot change, your emotions instantly lose their overwhelming destructive power over you. Think about just how liberating this is in daily practice. We spend so much time and energy stressing over things entirely out of our control, right? Other people's behavior, the weather, mistakes we made in the past. But your true power lives exclusively in what you can actually control, your opinions and your choices. It is a real game changer to stop stressing about the unstoppable stuff and focus all your energies strictly on your own actions. But listen, we aren't entirely to blame for our overreactions. Our emotions aren't actually the bad guys here. You see, our ancient brains are evolutionarily wired for survival. Historically, fear protected us from literal predators, and anger warned us against lethal injustice. But today, well, those exact same survival systems are misfiring at hypermodern, completely non-lethal inconveniences. Basically, our brains react to a stressful email or a snarky online comment as if we're in imminent physical danger. And to make matters worse, the modern world is practically designed from the ground up to keep you trapped in that reactive state. Social media feeds on outrage. The 24/7 news cycle absolutely demands your fear. Advertising relies on your endless desire. Modern algorithms are literally engineered to hijack those ancient survival instincts, and they do it to profit directly off your emotional state. The more emotional you become, the less rationally you think, and honestly, the easier you are to control. So what's the way out? The Stoics taught that the solution here is profound yet surprisingly simple. Between every event that happens to you and every action you have, there is a small space, just a tiny gap. And inside that quiet space, if you can simply manage to take a breath and pause when you're insulted or when you feel that anger rising, that is where your actual freedom lives. Seriously, that single pause changes absolutely everything. It takes an automatic reaction and transforms it into a conscious choice. This is exactly why the philosopher Seneca pointed out our mind's tragic tendency to basically invent emotional pain. He famously said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." I mean, think about how often you agonizingly worry about things that haven't even happened yet, a difficult conversation you're dreading at work, or just some uncertain future event. Your imagination is sitting there creating real, visceral emotional pain before reality even arrives at your front door. The ultimate antidote to all this imaginary suffering is forcing yourself to answer one specific, grounding question. What is actually happening right now? Actually, scratch that. It's not about what might happen tomorrow or what could happen next year, just right now. Answering this immediately pulls you out of your head and grounds you back in the present moment. And usually, the present moment is a whole lot less frightening than the elaborate cinematic disaster stories we're playing out in our minds. So, how do we actually build this kind of emotional armor on a daily basis? Well, it all starts with that crucial pause before reacting. Inside that pause, you can actively separate the cold, hard facts from your subjective feelings. Then you ask yourself, is this actually in my control? Instead of just blindly obeying those feelings, get them out of your head and journal them. And above all else, remember that they are temporary. You just need to treat your emotions like passing weather. Acknowledge them, observe them, but let them pass. Ultimately, guys, the greatest challenge you face every single day isn't against your boss or the economy or the state of the world. It is a battle against the part of yourself that reacts without thinking. Every single moment of your day gives you a choice. You can either choose to be a passive slave to your emotions, or you can step up and choose to become their master. It really all ties back to the immense power of our internal narrative. As Marcus Aurelius so perfectly noted, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. It's literally that simple. If you master your thoughts, your emotions simply have no choice but to fall in line and follow. I want to leave you with this final, truly empowering realization. Look, the world is always going to be unpredictable. It's messy, and you absolutely cannot always control what happens to you out there. But you can always control who you become in response to it. That space between event and reaction, it's yours. So the real question is, will you remain a prisoner to your impulses, or will you finally take the wheel?